Hi friends, it's Vicki here with Vicki Boutin Art Crayons. I want to do a little tutorial video showing you how to use the crayons. So they come in 3 different colors. You have a warm palette, a neutral palette, and a cool palette. So there's 3 different color families. Each box contains 8 crayons. So let's open up a box and show you what the crayons look like. So in a box, you will get a little stand that you can stand up your art crayons. Isn't that fun? So this is the cool box. So it is a mix of green and blue. I've used these crayons, so they're not brand new out of the box, but that's okay. So I just want to show you how I use these. So I'm going to open up the warm set as well. Actually, why don't we open all 3 sets? So we have 3 different choices for colors. See, so for the warm, you have yellows, oranges, and some pink. There's a pink in there and a fleshy color. In this box, the neutral box, we have some more blues, greens. It's a little earthier box. So see, there's 8 different colors in that box as well. So we will open those up. I'm going to take a few colors out that I want to use. And we can get started. So these crayons are really nice because they're super creamy consistency. It's like an oil pastel, but it's not an oil, because if it was oil, it would not react with water. Well, it would react with water, but not the way we would want it to react with water to do some craft projects. So I'm going to show you some basics here with the art crayons, especially how I start when I open up a new pack. I don't know if you can see that, but do you see that kind of white coating on the art crayon? I find that when I open up a brand new pack, it's nice to take a baby wipe and just kind of prep the surface of the crayon. So if you take the crayon and just kind of rub that white finish off, then you get lots of pigment out of it. So it just kind of gets a crayon started. So I find that that's a good tip. I did a video with the art crayons and I hadn't prepped the tips and it looked like you couldn't get very much pigment off of it, but you can. You just have to get it started. So with the crayons, you can use it traditionally like a oil pastel. So I can take it and I can draw on it just like you would with an oil pastel. So that's one thing you can do. But with these crayons, they're never going to set up, meaning they never really cure so that the pigment won't move. You're always going to get movement of the pigment. So I find it's not as bad when there's water added to the pigment because there's less of the crayon. It's not as thick, so you won't have as much of an issue. But I just want you to be aware that these crayons will move. So another fun thing, do you see, you can still see where I colored with a crayon? So it's just a little tip because I see a lot of people using them now that they've been on the market for a while. And a little tip when you want to move the color around, if you go directly from crayon to a piece of cardstock or a piece of paper, watercolor paper, whatever you're working on, if you draw right on it and then try to move the pigment around, you're still going to get kind of a shadow of that line that you drew. And if you work it too much, you're going to peel the paper. So I don't always, unless I want this kind of effect where I still can see the ghost of where I drew on the background as the technique, I don't color directly on my cardstock and then try to move it around with water. I find it's much easier if I draw it onto, this is a nonstick craft mat, so you can draw it right onto the craft mat. Put your pigments on, add some water, and then make your paint, and then paint directly on your background with the paintbrush and a little bit of water. So I just wanted to give you the basics with the art crayons. You can see there's tons of colors here, and now I'm going to show you a couple of quick techniques. Okay, let's get started. Here is one of the most basic things you can do with the art crayons, which gives you wow results. So it doesn't matter what your skill level is with painting or with artsy techniques or mixed media. This is a fun and easy way to use these crayons. So I have one of the Vicki Boutin stamps here, the floral pattern. You can use whatever stamps you like, but I want to show you what I love to do, or one of the easiest techniques when I'm demoing or teaching with these that get people excited and kind of over that barrier of, well, I can't do it because I'm not artsy. Well, yeah, you are, and let me show you how you can be. So I'm going to take the pink art crayon. Remember where we prepped it with a baby wipe? You can also dip it in a little bit of water and kind of get the pigment flowing, so it just makes it a little bit softer. So we're going to take this now, and I'm going to color right on to the stamp. You don't want it to be super wet, but do you see the pigment coming off there? So let me get some on here, and then I'll move it closer to the camera. As you can see, this is not a super high-tech video, but I wanted to get something done for you quickly before I've set up. I'm moving my studio into another room, actually converting my living room into a workspace because I need some more room because I tend to spread out all over the place. So I thought it would be fun to just get this out here and started creating, because I have been kind of on hiatus with all the travel I've been doing. And I thought it would be fun to show you how to get these art crayons started if you've bought them. I don't want you to be a collector of fine scrapbook product. I would rather see you use them. So here, this video is just with my iPhone, just quick. But I want to give you an idea. So I've gone in there with an orange, with a pink, and I'm going to go in the middle. Again, just wetting the crayon a little bit and put some in the center. So let me take this a little closer to the camera, and can you see that? Lots of pigment comes off of these crayons. So I'm going to take it now, and to activate that rather dry crayon ink, I'm just going to mist it with some water. So we can then take the stamp and stamp watercolor effect. Isn't that fun? So if you don't like that it's kind of bleeding in the middle, what do? Just add a little less water. But I like this. I'm going to color a little bit more right on here. And let's try it without misting. Just put a little bit more pigment on here, and let's see what we get when we don't mist it, because there's still water on the stamp. So let's see. It's a piece of paper. You don't have to be scared. Let's give it a try. So where it's a little drier, it didn't come out as much, but if you don't like that, guess what? Just take the stamp, wipe some of that off, so I'm getting some of the moisture out of the middle, and let's try it again. So like I said, this is just coloring directly on the stamps. You don't have to press too hard. You don't want to break the crayons. You just want to deposit a little bit of color. Also, if you press really hard, you're going to get the pigment all in the detail of the stamp, and then you might lose, again, some of the detail of the image. So just go in there and color around. Let's get some yellow in the middle. I'm going to do just maybe, how about one blast of water? Let's see what happens. And we can stamp again. Isn't that pretty? So that is one of the simplest ways to use the art crayons, to color right on a stamp, mist it, play around with the water. Don't commit to a final project when you first started. Like, don't go in with something you're worried about not doing perfectly. Just take a couple scraps of paper, play around with different detailed stamps, and see the kind of effect you can get in different color combinations. So just color on the stamp, mist with some water, and that's one technique. So let's move on to a different way I like to use the art crayons. I've stamped a background with some just basic moth pattern or butterfly pattern using some of my other Vicki Boutin stamps. And I'm going to show you how to traditionally use the crayons as watercolor. So remember I said you can just take these and draw right onto a craft mat, or if you don't want to use a craft mat, use a sheet of acrylic like this, or you can use your stamping block or some saran wrap, whatever you want to do. But I'm just going to use, for time's sake, the back of my craft mat, or this craft mat. So just go on your craft mat with a few of the colors you want to paint with. And don't worry, like, never throw these little pieces away, just use it. But you don't want big chunks, just don't press too hard. And another thing I found, if you're in a warmer climate, or when you're in a warmer climate, the crayons get a little soft. So just make sure that if it's super hot in your house, that you store them in a cooler place. But I've just deposited a few colors. Let's go with a little orange in here too. No, how about some of this turquoisey color? And then you can either take your paintbrush and add water, or I'm just going to use a mister bottle and add a little bit of water. So whenever I watercolor paint, one of the best tools that you can use is if I can find it, sheet of paper towels. I like to wick the water out with my paper towel when I go to paint, because less is more. I can always add, but I can't take away. So when I'm watercoloring, I like to have a watercolor or a piece of paper towel handy so I can get some of the moisture out of my brush. So I just take it and kiss it to the paper and suck some of that moisture out, and then I'm left with a little bit of pigment and less water. So you can just take these then and go on and deposit some color. So this is just regular old cardstock. You definitely will get better results if you use a watercolor paper. Or another trick I'm going to talk about in a little bit is gessoing your cardstock. So just taking a brayer and some gesso, and it just kind of preps the cardstock so it will accept the water and the pigment a little bit better. So look at the pigment in these, and that purple one that I use is a really lighter shade of purple, and then you have the darker purple here, but it's just a crayon. So why do I love art crayons as opposed to traditional watercolor sets? Well, one of the reasons is the price. I find that they're a little bit more cost effective than a really expensive set of watercolor. And the other thing, the whole idea when I was making this line or working on this line was to make some mixed media and artsy kind of materials that are great for beginners. So the quality of this isn't super artist quality, but they're a great place to start, and you'll find you'll get great results. And especially for people who are just kind of new to doing these kind of painterly techniques and you don't want to invest a ton of money. The other reason I love the art crayons is because they travel really well. They are dry, so if I'm going on an airplane, I could take these with me with a watercolor brush loaded with water, and I could do some adult coloring books, or if I had stamped images for cards, I could paint on those. But look at how nicely the pigments go on with these. So then you could take it some more color here and just make sure you really blend it so you don't have the little chunks of the crayon, but they blend out smoothly. You don't have like little dots of pigment when you use these crayons, and the less moisture you use, the more pigmented the color. So you can go in here, and I'm not going to get fancy, I'm just showing you how the colors work. But here's another way that you can use the art crayons traditionally like a watercolor. So I hope you can get the idea of how nice the pigment is in these crayons. So let's just add some of the blue because I put it out here. I love this color. And let's just add some detail. Like I said, I'm not fussy painting. I just want to show you how these work. So if you can hear anything in the background, that's my son yelling. He's playing his video games. But take a look at that. See the pigment in these crayons. It is a ton of fun. I love that they're very versatile, and this is just the second way that you can use them.